Hey, what's happening, everyone? It is I, the man, the myth, the mustache, Tim here, and I got a new video for you. Back by popular demand, we have part 8 of What If Toga Was in 1A. Since you asked for it, you got it. So sit back, relax, let's get this show going, shall we? Aoyama's gaze never wavered. It was filled with an unnerving level of passion. The light hit them so perfectly that his eyes almost twinkled to an unnatural degree. For what felt like ages, his eyes never faltered. His determination to watch over Toga was totally creepy. "Will you knock it off?" Toga shouted in a shrill tone, her finger pointed right at Aoyama. "You're not going to scare me into giving up by just staring me down." The class awkwardly stared at the two. Ever since it was announced that the two would go against each other, the young woman had seen the boy just staring at her. After the first 3 fights had ended, the two were sent to their preparation rooms. The 4th battle between Ida and Mei had only just begun. Toga had been able to mostly ignore it up until now. The distraction of Midoriya's brilliant strong-willed victory against Shinzo had been a major help towards that. The whole thing had psyched up Toga, in much a similar way to when she saw Midoriya's finger broken on their first day. This time, he broke 2 fingers. She and Uraraka talked about the fight while the second fight went on. Toga had only gotten further worked up throughout the talk. To calm herself down, she stepped out during the 3rd fight just in time to see Midoriya return to the room. The boy even asked if she was okay when she left, and never got upset when she didn't outright reply to him. She felt bad for leaving like that. Sadly, being around him wouldn't do much to help her calm down. When she did come back and blame the whole situation on her nervousness. As usual, Midoriya and Uraraka had only focused on trying to make her feel better, all of which had helped her stay distracted from the set of eyes that were staring at her the whole time. She always saw them, but never needed to think too much about it until now. Aoyama stood up with a smile that could charm the world. His hand gently motioned to her, while the other hand's fingertips gently rested upon the center of his chest. The lights behind him once again caught his body just right. It illuminated his movements as if he himself were directing it to better show himself off. Much like an actor on stage. Each movement had to be a performance that dazzled anyone and everyone who saw it. "Why would I ever wish for you to quit? I wish only to share your gaze as we prepare our burning passion towards our performance to the world." He spoke with such passion that if this was an act to throw her off guard, then he was the best actor she had ever met. Ida's shouts slowly trailed into the silent room. Soon followed Mei as she shouted in order to advertise her babies to the audience. The class slowly looked towards the TV. Before them, everyone saw Ida, who flew wildly throughout the air. Toga glanced over for a moment. She could feel a bead of awkward sweat roll down the back of her head. "Whatever you say," she said while she redirected her eyes back to Aoyama, who never looked away from her. Toga sighed at the smile that beamed at her face as it softened. She mostly didn't want to be yelled at for tardiness. They were already late for going to the preparation room. That, and she could no longer hold a straight face due to the sideshow she could easily see from the corner of her eye. After wishes of good luck were exchanged, the two set off. Sometime later, Ida was announced the winner after the prolonged infomercial had finished. Toga and Aoyama made their way to the battlefield. Toga could feel the weight of the world finally hit her. Hundreds of eyes trained on her and Aoyama, along with countless more that watched from their homes. If she proved herself here, there was no way her father could pretend she hadn't made progress. Toga was grateful that she was up against her classmate rather than someone from Class B. She would need that edge of the knowledge she had on Aoyama's quirk. It would make up for how little she could use hers in real combative ways. Aoyama could shoot a laser from his belly for 1 second at a time at a rate similar to that of someone who could throw quick punches. She could keep up with such a rate thanks to all of her training. In order to win, she would have to get in close and knock him out. When the start of the match was declared, Toga began to move. She kept on her toes, and attempted to stay on the move as she had been taught to do. Meanwhile, Aoyama did his best to not let up on his lasers. The match was fast-paced, with Toga heavily on the defensive. Toga eyed his belt as she moved. It was his only support item, which likely meant he'd be hindered significantly if it didn't work. She needed to break it. Her fists alone may not quite work on their own. The girl's lips curled into a wide grin as a plan came to mind. She leapt and landed in a low crouch to the ground. She made sure to linger for a moment before she leapt once again. She just barely got out of the line of fire in time. The laser had barely missed the area and hit the grass just beyond it. She had to get closer. She had to get lower. It was risky, but with the power the laser had when it hit the grass, she knew it would work for what she had planned. Toga ran forward to dodge another laser. She landed on her stomach and let herself slide closer with momentum. Most assumed she had tripped and fell from exhaustion. Even Aoyama assumed so. The boy shot another laser at her, but missed again when she rolled to the side in the nick of time. It crashed into the arena ground with a loud boom. Perfect, Toga whispered to herself happily. The moment the dust cleared, Aoyama's smile finally wavered. The sight before him of the girl missing startled him. His eyes searched the rubble that still littered the ground. Before he could look any longer, his eyes met Toga's at the moment she appeared before him. The girl smiled as she slammed a large hunk of the arena into the center of the belt as hard as she could. The action broke the belt, as well as what caused Aoyama to stumble backwards. His face now filled with shock and surprise. Toga had hoped to merely hinder the boy in battle, though as she saw the opportunity before her, she knew she had to take it. She kicked him square in the stomach to cause Aoyama to tumble back and out of the ring. The announcer declared her victorious. Toga jumped for joy with a bright smile. Her mother back home did the same. Even her father watched on in amazement. A small smile began to slowly appear on his face. It quickly retreated the moment his wife looked at him. Her father offered a casual shrug to hide the mild pride he felt for his daughter. Back at the tournament, Toga looked to Aoyama. He looked like he was upset with his loss, but tried his best to still stay positive. Toga allowed herself to slowly begin to smile when she realized he really did have the best intentions in mind all along. Hey, Toga offered him a hand. You are amazing, Aoyama. Sorry about your belt. Aoyama looked up to her. The sparkle returned back to his eyes. Toga felt another drop of sweat go down the back of her head from the look. She gripped his hand when he reached up and pulled him back to the arena. The two enjoyed the cheers for a moment longer before they were shooed off the platform. On the way back to the main room with the other students, the two wished Yaoyorozu and Tokoyami luck on their match. The other two congratulated them in return on their way out. Upon the return, Toga saw Bakugo roll his eyes at her. She stuck her tongue at him in response. Uraraka hugged Toga. The girls bounced with excitement as they did so. When they parted, Midoriya spoke up with his own congratulations paired with a thumbs up. Toga blushed bashfully at the notion, not noticing Uraraka as she looked at her. Uraraka didn't say anything so as to not ruin the moment. Instead, she wished Kirishima luck as he left for the preparation room. The class watched the next two fights excitedly. Midoriya and Toga tried to ease Uraraka's nerves before her fight. Uraraka and Bakugo's fight commenced much like it had originally in the show. Toga was getting infuriated by how long the battle was taking. The sight of how badly Bakugo was hurting Uraraka in their fight was truly testing her composure. Midoriya gently touched her shoulder. Hey, he's not doing it to hurt her. Bakugo's going all out because to him it would be disrespectful to her if he didn't try his hardest like she is. His words were soft and soothing, which calmed Toga to a more composed state. She was still filled with rage, but it was more controllable now. Thanks, she said quietly in return. Midoriya gave her a nod. When the fight was over, she left to check in on Uraraka, who was likely with Recovery Girl. On her way over, Toga felt something that truly disturbed her. Something that truly bled off an aura of malice, and something that aimed to pounce and attack at any moment. It lurked closely behind her as it awaited a proper opportunity to strike. She whipped around to see no one behind her. She blinked confused. She slowly looked down upon the moment she heard its voice. A voice she could barely remember, but was familiar enough to her. Ayy! The voiced word held itself out like a note, like a song of a siren luring in its prey. Her brow twitched upon the sight that came to view. It was a figure of a short boy she could barely remember ever interacting with. He was certainly in their class. He hadn't gotten far in the tournament thus far, honestly. She could barely remember seeing him in class at all. Her thoughts on how he even got back here were pushed aside for a moment. The boy she knew as Mineta waggled his small brows at her. "So I saw your fight earlier." A slight grin crept onto his face. "And I gotta say, you're pretty dexterous." The bottom lids of her eyes furled up along with her bottom lip. The boy breathed quite heavily while he shared his thoughts on her movement very openly. Never before had she felt more uncomfortable than right now. How could she have overlooked this boy so easily up until now? His presence was so hard to miss. The boy was nowhere near shy, so she doubted it was due to him avoiding her or something. "Hey!" The voice of Mina called out in anger. "The teachers told you that you couldn't be back here, you creep!" Before Toga could take much more in, the two darted past her in a full-blown chase. Toga could feel her upper lip twitch while she squinted into the distance. She hoped to avoid that boy from now on until the end of time. Though she knew, his smile would haunt her dreams for the rest of her current and next lives. The young girl proceeded to tunnel vision her path right to the infirmary to meet with Uraraka. She even missed Todoroki and Midoriya as they left to go to an alley to talk. Uraraka bowed on her way out to thank the nurse for her help. She saw Toga and smiled sadly. Toga quickly moved to embrace her best friend. The two talked over Uraraka's match for a bit while they walked. It would be a while until Toga's next match, so the girls decided to find somewhere to chill out alone to talk about Midoriya's match. It was a friendly and fun talk that perked their spirits up. Toga noticed Uraraka's face that grew a bit hesitant. "What's wrong?" Toga asked with a concerned tone. Uraraka paused and bit her bottom lip. "Do you like deku?" Toga could feel the warmth leave her face at the question. She knew her answer would end up hurting Uraraka, who also clearly liked Midoriya. She didn't want to lie to her friend, however. With a sharp inhale, Toga forced out her answer. "There's just something about him that..." She stopped herself before she could say anything that would only make the situation worse. "I do like him, but I'd never act on it." The words at first saddened Uraraka due to the news they both shared a love interest in the boy. It then proceeded to shock her the fact that Toga did not wish to date the boy. "Why not?" she inquired. "'Cause I know you like him too. I'd never hurt you like that over a boy. There are plenty of other people I could try to date instead of someone you like," Toga offered with a soft tone. "Like Bakugo?" Uraraka asked with a teary-eyed soft smile that formed on her face. "Ew, no! He's like way too obnoxious. That and we have like nothing in common. Besides, he totally would never go for me." Toga protested with a blush that quickly formed on her face. Uraraka started to giggle at her reply. She flailed her arms at her friend while Uraraka chose to tease her more about the idea. Toga knew she and him had gotten a bit more friendly, but it wasn't romantic. At least, not in her eyes. After a while, the two calmed down from their teasing. Uraraka gently took Toga's hand in hers and smiled softly to her. The smile gifted the warmth back to Toga that she previously lost. "I won't date Midoriya either. I don't want to hurt you. Just like you said, our friendship is far more important than a boy," Uraraka said. Toga blinked in surprise, but smiled at Uraraka right after the shock passed. She didn't like the idea that her friend had to push off her feelings just for her. The jealousy of even the idea alone of her dating Midoriya only proved the point that neither should date him. Toga gently pulled Uraraka in for a hug, who quickly accepted it. Toga was honestly relieved beyond belief that her feelings about Midoriya hadn't caused any issues between them. Uraraka was one of the most important people in her life after all. "Thanks, Uraraka," Toga said softly while she held Uraraka close. The two soon made their way back to the main room where the others sat in wait. It seemed oddly quiet. Toga was about to ask what was going on, but noticed the screen everyone was staring at. Midoriya shouted an inspirational speech to Todoroki, who looked unharmed. Midoriya, on the other hand, had broken. His fingers somehow looked even further broken than before. Toga's breathing grew heavy, her heart rate spiked, and grew only faster with each passing moment. Toga could barely think straight. She rushed out of the room quickly while the others were distracted. All but Bakugo seemed to not notice or flee. The boy said nothing, and decided to just eye her in silence as she left. Toga closed the door quickly. She pressed her back to it as if she'd fall if it wasn't there. The young girl held herself tightly. Her face was flushed red. A wild, insane-looking smile spread over her face. Everything inside her screamed to further injure Midoriya in order to make him cuter. "I need to break him. He's just too cute," she whispered out. Her smile grew only more haunting. Her lips parted to form an open-mouthed smile that showed off her sharp teeth. Her legs trembled as they slowly shifted directions to turn her towards the infirmary. She knew after the fight he would be sent there. All she had to do was wait. Her feet felt heavy. Each step betrayed her. Her body moved on its own. Her breath turned heavier with a pant. The very air felt as though it desired to suffocate her. All her senses attacked her in a vicious war to see which one would be able to break her first. Her mother's words sliced through her internal chanting. It silenced the words that told her to hurt one of her friends. The words were from the day her mother had told her what she did to the small bird was wrong. The words posed as the only force that fought against her inner desires. She had to be good for her mother's sake. She needed to be good to prove her father wrong. That she was better than what he saw her as. With every ounce of willpower and strength in her body, she stopped walking. The desire to press on grew wild inside her. Her body felt as though it would tear itself apart if she didn't keep moving, like it had decided to hold itself for ransom. A gentle touch on her shoulder pulled her attention over to Uraraka. Toga's vision had grown blurry from the stress. The center of her vision only cleared enough to see her best friend's scared look. Not of her, but for her. Toga had been so lost in her own head, she hadn't even heard her approach. "Hey, you don't look so good. Do you need to go see a recovery girl?" Uraraka asked gently, then felt Toga's forehead. "Whoa, you're burning up!" "No, I don't need to go there." Toga said more to the voice deep inside of her that wished to hurt Midoriya than to her concerned friend. The look Uraraka gave her screamed how she didn't believe Toga. Uraraka chose to respect Toga's wishes, though. Instead, she decided to stay with her and talk. The action unknowingly to Uraraka helped Toga down from the edge she had danced on only moments before. When the time came, she was called to the prepping room. Uraraka made sure Toga was still good. Once again, Toga said she didn't need to go to Recovery Girl. Uraraka gave her one last hug and left her to go check on Midoriya. Toga left for the preparation room. She slowly made her way with a far more clear mind to the designated room. There, she waited until it was time for her battle and made her way to the arena. She locked eyes with Tokoyami, her next opponent. She didn't know a lot about his quirk, but she knew enough. She proceeded to look up to the sky. She squinted at the sun that was directly overhead. In a darker area, she'd be screwed against his dark shadow. Though in direct sunlight like they were now, she actually had a chance. From what she had heard from Midoriya, the boy's shadow grew smaller with light. This meant she could get closer far easier than with Aoyama. It was far more dangerous too, but with practice in using her invisibility, she may be able to get an edge. When the match started, both of the students darted towards each other. Dark Shadow emerged, aimed to strike. Tokoyami grit his teeth as Dark Shadow missed upon Toga disappearing. She appeared beside him to send a fist towards him. Tokoyami took the hit and sent Dark Shadow to her new location. Unfortunately for him, she vanished once again. Toga proceeded to use her invisibility in short bursts, so as to avoid getting lightheaded from holding her breath for too long. She did her best to lure Dark Shadow from Tokoyami's side by dipping in and out of his range, which forced it to move further away from each attack. To avoid him withdrawing completely due to repeated failures, she occasionally allowed some attacks to hit her. Each time she got an opening, she darted in to get blows. Each blow slowly pushed Tokoyami towards the edge of the arena while he was more focused on trying to hit Toga than noting where he currently stood, until it was too late. It was another ring-out win, but with her powers, it was hard to go up against someone like Tokoyami in a long drawn-out close-up battle. When the last opening became available, she struck hard, knocking him out of the arena. Toga basked in the cheering of the crowd with a bright smile while she caught her breath. She then looked to the nearest camera to shout at it and waved excitedly. "I'm doing it, Mom!" she declared, jumping up and down. "I know, baby, I'm so proud!" her mother shouted in return to the TV from home. "She can't hear you from the TV, dear," her father grumbled while he held in his pride that only grew stronger. Back at the tournament, Toga once again helped her opponent to his feet. She thanked him for the match and made her way back to the room with the others. She and the others relaxed while they all watched Bakugo's fight against Kirishima, who had won the tiebreaker from his draw with Tetsu. This battle, though, ended in a loss against Bakugo. Next was Todoroki and Ida, that would prove Todoroki as the winner later once again. While that fight went on, Toga and Bakugo had to make their way to the preparation room when instructed. A few moments into their silent walk, Bakugo looked to her and spoke up. "Make me look bad again and I'll kill you, freak." "Only you could do that, Bakugo. No one else would need to," Toga said teasingly. "Besides, you're not the only one who wants to avoid looking bad." Bakugo huffed at her teasing. He stared her down for a moment before he left with a grunt to his own room. Sometime later, Toga and Bakugo made their way onto the arena. The very air around them grew thick with anticipation of who would win the fight. And that's our video, so thank you all for watching and indulging yourselves in our story thus far. I hope you have enjoyed it. Now, there are a few more things I want to go over before the video ends. First, we have a second channel called Anime Deep Dive. Anime Deep Dive goes over the hard facts and lore of a wide variety of anime, which is sure to expand your weeb knowledge of all kinds, guaranteed. On top of that, we have a third channel called We the Celestials Naruto What Ifs. It's what we do on this channel, but in the vast world and lore of Naruto. So go check that out if you're in the mood for some jutsu action. Secondly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I want to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details will be in the description below. Finally, if you're interested in what we do here with the Celestials, then I want to extend an invitation to join our crew. We only have one caveat: you must be 16 years or older to join our crew. You can sign up for whichever category fulfills your interests by joining the recruitment Discord in the description below. Our Discord is an all-around fantastic place to be, whether you're a fan or you're looking to join our crew. And so that's it for today's video, so thank you all for watching, and I do hope you have a great day. And before I go, I do hope everyone is taking care of themselves mentally and physically, that you do deserve happiness, no one can say otherwise. But I also want to say that mistakes do happen in life. The best things we can do for mistakes is to learn from them, heal, and then do better for ourselves in the future. So thank you all for watching. Mustache out.